How you guys doing? My name is Omar Thompson.
I'm Camron Hurt, and this is the Black News Briefing. Our news,
our news, our way.
Exactly. We've got some very interesting topics to get into it with you guys about. We're going to touch on some of the biggest news of the week. Also, we will be checking in with two sisters, and we're going to talk about Black mental health. So stay tuned. We got all you need. When we come back, we'll get into it. All right, you guys, welcome back. Omar, it's good to have you back this week. The people missed you last week, but you good, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's good to be back as always. I had a great time in Houston. Shout out to Houston. It was lit. Appreciate it.
Glad you made it back. We didn't know if Houston was going to give you back to us or not.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. I'm back in one piece. Had a great time. Shout out to a lounge called Five. It's in downtown Houston. I want to say, is it Five Mics or something like that? It's owned by a Q. Very awesome brother. But it was definitely lit. My Houstoners, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Definitely a great scene, definitely a great Black-owned scene, but definitely a great Greek scene. So, shout out to Houston. Had a great time.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, we are going to be jumping into it today, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into we're going to jump into the current events of the week. So first up, for the current events of this week, we want to give a happy Pride Month to all of the LGBTQ plus community. Love you guys. LGBTQ and Black history and civil rights, they go hand in hand for most times in most topics. And we would just be remiss if we didn't think about all our Black brothers and sisters who are a part of the community, who have their own specific struggles within that community. So shout out to you guys. We hope you guys have an amazing month. And yeah, where the parade at? Parades are fun. Omar, I don't know if you've ever been to a Pride parade, but for a straight person, they're a lot of fun to go to. It's a whole lot of free drinks. It's pretty great. And it's like walking into it. So shout out to you guys. Happy Pride. Also, this week marked the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. And what happened in Tulsa was that it was basically an attempt at ethnic cleansing, if you will. African Americans had become very financially stable in the Tulsa area. They had established this thing called Black Wall Street, which had, Black-owned businesses and even Black trade going on there. And it was thriving. It was thriving more than the white counterpart in the town of Tulsa. Well, with ammunition provided for by the U.S. government, a mob of racists, a mob of white supremacists, a mob of disgusting people basically went on this side of town and burnt and bombed everything, burning it to the ground. And to that point, there has not been an official presidential acknowledgement of the Tulsa race massacre ever until Joe Biden. Joe Biden publicly went to Tulsa for the anniversary. He acknowledged the massacre. He acknowledged the American government's role in the massacre. Now, a lot of people ask, a lot of people will say, Joe, get rid of student loans. Joe, why haven't you done this specifically? What is Joe doing? He's doing a whole lot of virtue signaling. And I can get why people feel that way. But America has to accept the truth to start to work on the truth. And by never accepting what happened in Tulsa as fact, most of us were not taught. I don't know one person who was taught about Tulsa in school, in primary school. And when it comes to that knowledge, that it's now being acknowledged on an executive level, on a national level, on a federal level, we can start to do more with it. There's no world where police brutality stops in a nation that won't recognize the atrocity and the racial massacre of Tulsa. Some of these things both have to go. And while it's the easiest thing for him to do, and I will say that it is the easiest, it's respected. It's respected to have a man acknowledge Tulsa on its massacre rather than, I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year, Trump, on the anniversary of Tulsa, held a political rally in Tulsa where, he told us how he was the best president for us since Abe Lincoln. And it's, again, your opinion on how you feel about him. However, it's a much different tone when a president comes out in support of the historical facts and evidence, and one president just decides to gaslight and make a mockery of this. Now, and also going with what's going on in Tulsa, there are 2 still living survivors, and there are descendants of people who were affected by the massacre. And there has been an active call for them to get immediate reparations for the people, the 2 living survivors, and for their descendants. And this call for reparations is important because they were able to monetize the Tulsa massacre. I believe a community organization raised a few million and money to help put on this, let's say, commemoration instead of celebration of this massacre. And with that, it becomes a thing. It becomes a thing of when you're making money off the death of people, should you not give that money back to the people who have been directly impacted and directly affected by it? That's a question that I ask to everybody. Omar, for you, when you hear Tulsa, what do you think about?
Well, when I hear Tulsa, I hear, the greatest, might be the greatest time of thriving in our nation's history for the African American people with Black Wall Street, as far as setting up businesses and thriving as a community. And I feel like they really set the standard for our people when it comes to holding the stake in our own country. So it's such an atrocity that something like that, the shame people should definitely feel ashamed to, our Caucasian counterparts should definitely feel ashamed of that, and they should give reparations to those survivors and their descendants. I definitely agree.
Good. I mean, my thoughts are, very similar in that money is owed to those families and to those victims, let alone to all of African Americans. This is a deeper topic that we can dive into on another day, but you got to think, if somebody came and blew up Wall Street, the impact would be felt financially to all of Americans. So when somebody comes and blows up a Black Wall Street, then it's the exact same thing. They're not mutually exclusive. Let's stop trying to do that.
And Cam, it's also a conversation of, I remember there was the speech of the Great Compromise that Booker T. Washington gave that said that we should be as separate as together as the hand, but separate as the fingers. So he didn't believe in integration per se. He believed that, and there are still some people today that believe that we should have our own. Like that, it is a fact that more, I think homeowners, more people owned homes back then than African Americans own homes now. You know, and we are in 2021. So, I mean, and also as far as education, schools are more segregated now than they were back then. You know, so I think that's a conversation that we'll definitely have to get into later on in the show when it comes to Black economics and standing firm, getting businesses and things like that, and how could we replicate that system? We should definitely be studying Black Wall Street in school and also high school as well and college.
I definitely agree. I think one of the cool things about going to the HBCU is I did get to study it in a college, and that may be an experience unique to HBCU. So shout out HBCUs. I also think you bring up some great talking points. There are certain trends that we do see. We saw longer marriages. We saw home ownership. We saw education being some of the best it's been. Now, where you lose me, and where, again, I'm so open for a conversation in it, is that a Black trend or is that American trend? Because since that time, across the board, American home ownership has gone down. Across the board, divorce has gone up. And across the board, education has been defunded and has gone down. So there's so many moving parts to that to absolutely hit on. I think what was so outstanding from all that and what's kind of brilliant is when Booker T talked about that, I think he really talked about making it in a system that he had to make it in. You know, integration wasn't even an idea when Booker T was around, or at least not a prominent one. And so really what he was able to do and what so many were able to do were to work within the system they were given and be the best in it. And what's tragic is that oftentimes being the best ultimately came with paying the price for it with your life if you were Black, because you couldn't outdo a white Wall Street. You couldn't put out a white business and think that, you know, you wouldn't be killed. You know, no white woman could ever willingly desire a Black man and it not be anything but rape, you know? So it's different things like that, but we'll definitely have to get into that on an economic episode. I'm so here for that one. Another current event news we wanted to touch on. This one's kind of great. You were just in Houston. Again, shout out to Houston, but the Texas legislature. This past week, Texas Republicans tried to pass in the state Congress a bill that would just disproportionately target disenfranchised voters and make it even harder for them to vote. And because of this, the Texas Democrats do not have enough of a number to stop the vote. The vote will eventually happen and the vote will pass because Democrats don't have the numbers for it. But in one of the most bold moves that has only been done 3 times in Texas legislature history, the Democrats walked out of that session before the vote could be cast. And what happens, why it's so important that they walked out, is because walking out throws off the quorum. Quorum is what you call the amount of people present. And in order for votes to officially happen, a certain percentage of the voting population must be there. Well, they didn't have enough of a percentage to stop the bill from passing, but they did and were able to stop the bill from even being voted on. So by walking out, there was no quorum, the bill died. Now, in order for it to come up again, they're going to have to reintroduce it, call a special session, them away, Congress people away from their families again, and try to do it and hope that Democrats don't walk out again. This is beautiful. It's really civil disobedience at its finest. Well, not at its finest, but it's definitely a way of working within the system while you're in the system. However, I wonder what precedent it sets. I wonder how long before multiple groups, no matter what state, realize, hey, I can just walk out if I don't want the quorum to be met, and therefore no vote. And I wonder if it'll polarize us more to where we're voting for more extremes. That way we know we'll at least always have a vote no matter what side of the aisle you're on. Omar, any thoughts?
As you were talking, I'm thinking of the climate is definitely different in Houston. As far as the citizens and as far as I feel like the paradigm, the mindset. I just wanted to touch on walking through there. First of all, there's a lot of people with no masks on, and I think Cam, do they do that? You are in Florida, correct? Are they wearing masks in Florida?
I'm in Tennessee, and for the most part, no, nobody's wearing a mask in Tennessee right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there were no masks. It seems like the people there are more politically like how could I say it? The tone was very, privileged as far as our counterparts were. I would definitely felt that, in the department stores and downtown places that we went. And I want to, say that I think that there definitely needs to get more politically involved in minorities, people have to get more involved. And so things like this will not occur, as far as the vote.
I think definitely we're gonna have to more than ever in this election in 2022. We're gonna have to try our hardest to make sure we get everybody we know out to vote. We are going to have to make sure that we are calling up our friends, our family, that we're taking them when we can. Again, I don't think stopping us to vote wouldn't be so important to them if it wasn't important to keeping a certain type of power structure. And I think, again, I can only speak for my lifetime, but every time Black people have shown up in numbers, be it the Obama years or even with Joe Biden, the election is swayed. And I think that's a power that we can't let go of. We cannot let go of. The only reason Trump got in the first time is because Black voters didn't show up. So I encourage us all to look at our politicians who are making a stand. Let's put them back in there when we need to, and let's get rid of the ones that we don't need, especially in this midterm. Do not miss this midterm 2022. Do not miss it. And that right there, you guys, is going to conclude our current events section. And we're going to go ahead and move into the main topic of tonight, which is mental health. And we're going to bring on two very, very, very special people with us. We have Danny D, and we have Dr. Cassandra M. Parks Evans to welcome to the show. Hi, ladies. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Hello.
Doing well, doing well. So we're just going to jump right into the conversation here, okay, you guys?
Sounds good.
All right. So first question up is there any type of disconnect that you ladies see on a macro level between the Black community and mental health? And if there is, what might that look like? Let's go Danny first and then Dr. Cassandra.
Yes. Personally, I'm very focused myself right now on where I'm at mentally, because mentally affects everything else, right? And so I feel like as far as the Black community, we're very shy and we don't want to discuss mental health in general. It's a generational thing. And so throughout school and learning and statistics and all that, and personal and where I'm at, and as far as, you know, just communicating with like my boyfriend and, you know, the things he's been through and just simple discussions. I feel like there's a very big stigma against just the discussion and the topic itself, let alone trying to treat it and learn and grow from everything. So yeah, it's a lot actually. We could probably talk about this for hours. Gotcha.
Sorry, y'all, I was muted. No, it's best to mute yourself when you're not talking. That way there's no feedback. But Dr. Cassandra, what about you?
Yes, I see it on a daily basis. My main thing is in relationships. So when people have issues in their relationships, it comes from a lot of different aspects. Background is one of them. And if there was some sort of mental illness or mental health issues that were occurring earlier in the years, they bring that into their relationships. And Black people in our community as a whole feel like they should, they shouldn't talk about mental health. They feel like that it's letting somebody into their business, so to say, because that was what we were taught when we were younger. But we don't realize that you need more than this Jesus, so to say. And I tell people all the time, you can have Jesus and a therapist.
That is a tagline right there. You can have Jesus and a therapist. I felt that. And some people need both and a little bit more. But
Amen.
but I got into an interesting conversation actually with my father maybe 3 days ago. And my sister asked him if he was triggered, and he's like, I hate that word. That doesn't exist. Trigger is just another word for being whiny or something like that, something along those lines. And I didn't argue with him, but I copied and pasted some scientific articles, and I was like, you know, you guys, I was like, this is what trigger means. Now you can have an opinion about people who are triggered or what they're triggered by, but a fact is a fact. You cannot remove that to meet your opinion. You are literally turning down a fact. So I guess that goes into my next question of when we hear a lot of people nowadays, they'll say the newer generation is weak-minded, or we didn't have that growing up and I turned out fine. Well, now we do have a generation that is speaking out about anxiety, about depression, but the other generations of people, even within the same one, aren't feeling it because they're like, well, my life was worse and I didn't have it. So what are you really depressed about? Excuse me, you guys. Sorry, my acid reflux going crazy. But Cassandra, what would you say to that? How do you answer to people like that?
That's rough because that has been our mentality, you know, as I was speaking earlier. We were told not to tell our business. So we were having to deal with all those issues that we had within ourselves. And then with that in itself being a lot, we have the outside society. We have, you know, racism in our face. We have economic issues. We have just, you know, housing issues, redlining, voting, you know, and with all of that, that can give you anxiety. That can give you just all the stress in the world, and it is important as a Black community that we get out and talk about that. I know personally I have unfortunately said that to my son, but I had to check myself because I'm like, this is a different generation. They're more in tune to themselves, and that's an excellent thing. They believe in self-care. They believe in pampering. They believe in finding out what the issue is and how to change it. So I commend people of this society, the younger people of this society, because they are in tune with themselves and they've learned that there's nothing wrong with going to get help.
Amen. Danny, what are your thoughts though? Like, again, same question. It's just like, what do you say when people don't feel like it's an actual thing? And it's, well, because I didn't go through it, or because my life was worse and I didn't go through it, it can't be a thing for you be there.
Yeah, like Cassandra was saying, it really starts from the beginning. It starts from the home, and because we were not, my parents weren't taught. Like my mother says all the time, like I talk to you. My mother didn't talk to me the way I talk to you. And even though sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, mom, dad, like I know, I get it, but that's a real thing. And so now I feel like somebody said, or I saw something about social media. As bad as social media can be, I think some people also use it as an outlet. So these are outlets and resources that weren't always there. And sometimes they can be used in a positive way. So I just feel like it starts from what you're taught. And even though, it's taught and it's travels down generations, at some point, as we are here now, you learn that, okay, this is not okay. And we need to find some way, because again, mental triggers everything else. If you're not okay mentally, that can harm and lead to everything else and negative situations and outcomes. And it's just, I love where we are now. Like I applaud everyone that is very in tune to being honest and open, and I need to have me time and focus on myself. So I think it's an amazing thing.
I think for me, when I think about mental health in this journey that the African American community has been on, it's very beautiful, and it's more encouraging than it is discouraging. When I was growing up, I was extremely angry. I was extremely kind of quirky too at the same right. And I didn't understand it. In my head, I did not make sense. But as I got older and these subjects and topics of mental health came up, I became more aware of myself. And what that did was that took away the anger. And what I stopped focusing on was being angry or things that got me angry. What I started focusing on was coping. Because if I understood where the anger came from, then I could understand how to beat it. And, then I became a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. It's a little bit. But my next question for you guys would be, what is it like in Black women's circles? Is it supportive in Black women's circles to talk about health? Because so often I feel like Black women kind of get left out of that part of the conversation. I feel like we oftentimes we talk about how it's so hard for Black male to get the mental health that they need, and there's such a stigma against Black men who get the mental health that they need. And I 100% agree with that. But I just want to check in with the ladies. I've actually never heard this talked about, but is it supportive for Black females to Black women, excuse me, to get mental help? And if it's not, or how is it received between other Black women? Danny?
I think it all starts with the people you have around you. I have always been a very open person. I've always been a very honest person. And so at this point in my life, I make sure to have those people around me. I want to know that if I have an issue, whether it's something I did wrong or something I'm uncomfortable with, that I can go to my line sisters or friends that I went to college with or whomever, and know that they're not, first of all, going to judge me for the situation. They're going to offer me positive feedback and help me get through it, And so I think for not just women, but for men too, but us as women, we're more open to discussing, we're more, I guess, emotional in certain ways. We're very, I think, honest versus the Black men when it comes to just emotions and feelings and things of that nature. But again, it starts with who you have around you. And if you don't have that circle and that support system, then you're already going to feel judged. You're going to judge yourself. And then you're not even going to want to discuss what you are actually going through. So.
Cassandra, same question.
I personally I come from the 70s. I was born in the 70s, so I'm an 80s, 90s baby. And I know personally back then it was kind of taboo to talk about that you needed to go see a therapist, or that you needed to talk to someone or something like that. I come from the era where they were like, "Chick, get it together. Go get some drinks. Let's come on, you'll be all right." But that wasn't the way that it should have been. It should have been more encouraging for you to go ask and see, get some help, get some therapy, talk out your issues. Is there something that I can do? But now I see a resurgence of people wanting to get mental health help. They understand the importance of it, and they understand the wholeness that they need to be. So I see the trend slightly moving towards, maybe you want to go talk to somebody, let me introduce you to somebody that I think can help you. So I think the trend is changing, but I think it needs to move faster, and it needs to move more. And us as a Black community needs to get the stigma of mental health and going to talk to somebody away, because it is very therapeutic. It's only going to help our community become one. And it's all those anger issues that we have from the world, from our family, from our jobs, that need to be discussed and talked about and give a person some light.
Absolutely. And with that, and shifting into just adolescence, I raised a son during this surge in social media, and it is hectic. It is hectic. There are things that I didn't know to look for, that now that he's 20, I'm like, hold on, we could have nipped that, or we could have helped that better, or just the things that he was constantly exposed to and how it made him feel and think about himself, his life, and like down to like even the qualities of that make him a being. And I had no idea how impactful it is. I think social media is something very impactful. It can be impactful bad, or it can be impactful good. It's just impactful. And I also, having taught during the years of the social media surge, I've seen how it just really affects kids, and where's a healthy balance. I like to think I know, like, you guys know I love news. I'm a political scientist. I try to stay tuned in as often as possible. But even on my social media, I can't afford to just follow 24/7 news accounts, because it can be so mentally exhausting. So I follow animal pages that show me tigers. I follow good news pages, like literally pages just like good news or great things going on in the world, to kind of keep me in perspective and to help keep me balanced. Now, I'm older and I come with more wisdom than the adolescents do. But what do we say to adolescents, do you think? Cassandra, you want to go?
Sorry, I was on mute. I would say that we need to get our adolescents, we need to teach them self-care. That's the first and foremost thing. To make sure that we have healthy children, we need to teach them self-care. We need to teach them that it's okay to put their phones down and read a book, or if they're going to have their phone, like you suggested, have animals or some good news, good feeling stories. I would also recommend them following somebody online that is completely positive in their age. Especially during COVID, on TikTok, they had a lot of people come out that were teenagers and young adults, and they were just encouraging, giving good news, reinforcing good habits, things of that sort. So I think we need to steer our children more in that area, so that they know not everything on social media is bad. And we also have to really address the bullying situation as well, because that has a great mental toll on our students as well.
There I go, being muted again. Y'all pray for me. But I'm gonna push on that one a little bit, and then we'll kick it over to Danny. But when you talk about the bullying now, it's as a teacher, it's something that I saw schools trying to make a conscious effort of. And I see commercials, and I grew up with a son who had bully in his vocabulary, and I didn't have bully in my vocabulary. I had, so-and-so got me messed up in my vocabulary. I had, they think I'm a punk in my vocabulary, but I didn't have the term bullying. And because when I was growing up, bullying was like the ultimate victim. Like, you're weak, you're really nothing if you allow yourself to get bullied. But this generation seems to have a more evolved definition of what bullying is. So when you speak about the bullying going on now to somebody who may even be in my generation, be like, them kids ain't got it no different than what we did. What do you mean by that? And why is bullying such an issue now?
Bullying is an issue because it has greater consequences than when we were in school. When I was in school, quote unquote, a bully, what would happen? The most that would happen is, somebody in your fourth period may tell somebody in fifth period, and maybe a selective group of people might know something or make a joke about something that happened. But now we have social media. We can just instantly post it on Instagram, and next thing you know, it's viral. So bullying in this time is very, very viral. Just the smallest thing can get you, thousands of shares. So that affects a person's life. So they're constantly worried about, are they doing the right thing? Are they going to be accepted by their friends? And that takes a great toll on our youth. And we need to teach our youth that everybody is an individual. Everybody does things different, and they need to present themselves as more positive than trying to hurt or diminish somebody's characteristics.
Very fair, very fair. Danny, so the question is basically, how do we help kids navigate mental health and social media in a very balanced way, in your opinion?
Okay. The access to the world is what scares me. I don't have children yet, but it's the access to everything. I think that's what makes it so easy. So it's literally having to find that balance. I think it sucks such a young age now, because you go on TikTok and you see 3 or 4 year olds focused on the camera, like they know exactly what's going on, right? We didn't have that. We had AOL, instant messaging, like we didn't have that, so we didn't know
what came in on the CD.
Yeah, like we had Facebook when we just got to college, I think. You know what I'm saying? So we were like, oh my God, we thought we were doing something, but there still wasn't that access to the world. So I think it's really starting early and grounding your babies and knowing that you're worth more than what you see on these cameras and on these screens, because this is literally just that. You don't know what's going on. We have to, I think, be even more honest and open with them and let them know that this might not be their real life. This is what you see for the 30 to 60 seconds on the screen. And then their real life might not be as healthy as yours is, and as that person might not be as blessed, or whatever the situation is. So I think we have to set them up mentally to know that you are enough right now. But again, it's scary because we have to start doing that at even a younger age. Like, I think by the time I have a child, like 4 or 5, I'm going to have to be like, baby, this is what it is. But I feel like that honesty will prepare them and allow them to gain that confidence and that self-love, which will, prohibit them from all the negativity and possible bullying that they might experience later, sadly, and just make them even more balanced at a younger age.
Absolutely. I definitely see that. So then as the conversation evolves and we think about this, is there a certain level of mental just stress and anguish that is put on specifically a Black American body that is not felt by our counterparts? Do you guys think? Danny?
You say body.
I mean, like a physical, Black people, do we go through a certain type of mental stress just being in America that is unique to just us? And if so, what might that look like for people who aren't Black, who don't know, or how may it manifest?
I think it's everyday things. you know, it's trends and topics going around on social media now about the bonnets and all that stuff and scarves and all that. We all see that trending. And I feel like it's coming down, you know, since everything has been going on the past couple of years, they're starting to focus in on like the small things. So I see a lot of all of this black girl had on this, and then you see a white girl with the same thing on. It's kind of, it's the same thing, but we're judged more harshly than the other young lady is. I just every day, sadly, I have felt more pressure just going to mind my business in the community as a young black woman. And I've started to notice it more, maybe because I'm mentally prepared for it now and I'm learning at this stage in my life. But I feel like we just, again, we have to prepare our babies. We have to now prepare ourselves for things we don't think about. Like I said, going to the store, or, you know, we went to HBCUs, but, you know, if they decide to go to a PWI, like what they're going to, I mean, is that the word? Is that the acronym? I always get that. Okay. I always confuse that. I didn't go to one. So I don't know. But just preparing them for the stigmas and what they may have to deal with, and they might not experience it growing up, but as soon as they leave the household, that's something we're just going to have to prepare them for, because it's everyday things that we're like, well, I just did this, or I'm just standing here minding my business or doing this, but I'm judged this way and I'm looked at this way literally because of the color of my skin. So.
Cassandra, what about you? What do you feel?
I do feel that blacks are disproportionate when it comes to mental health because of the things that are put on us. The homelessness, the being in poverty, the socioeconomic status. All of these are a good melting pot for us to have stress, to have mental issues. And, you know, the outside, you know, someone had posted about how America sees us, especially white Americans. You know, they're scared that we're, quote unquote, getting more of America. You know, we're getting liberties and freedoms. And that has forced a lot of race issues to come out even further now. So now, you know, you have to worry about going to the store or even just being in your yard and something happening. So it puts a lot of stress on us. And stress, of course, is, you know, high blood pressure. That helps a lot of things to escalate too. I'm sorry, I'm tongue tied. Escalate as well. You know, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of the health issues that we have in the black community that we don't go and fix. Put that on top of stress and mental health issues. It's just a ticking time bomb.
I definitely agree that it's a ticking time bomb, and unfortunately, we've been seeing it explode. There's been a rise in black involved mass shootings, which we used to comfortably be able to sit back, hear the word mass shooting, be like, oh, we know it ain't us. We good. And now we have to be like, hold on 1 second. Let me hear how it went down. Where is it at? And please, God, don't let them be black. And I think that in and of itself is a telling thing. That is a telling thing of where we're at with our mental health and where it's going. And I think that we should be encouraging our kids and our families to seek counseling early. My personal thought on therapy is I go and I get my physical every year. You know, well, it's supposed to be every year. Y'all pray for me. I'm trying to get better. But, you know, I get my physical. You know, I go to the dentist. I go get an eye exam. Your brain is a muscle. Your brain is an absolute muscle. And I think that you have to remember that your muscle has to be tended to the same way that any of your other muscles would. And that to not go and get the work, you know, it's not going to create a healthy environment, or not the most healthy environment possible. Miss Diane said nowadays, question mark. I'm sorry, I completely missed what comment I said that said nowadays. You guys, we're going to jump into some of these comments here. Yeah, Miss Diane, if you could tell me which comment specifically you're talking about, I'll address that. But we're going to get some of the comments here, and let's just have an open conversation. Agree with them or not, let's just look and see. So definitely, it was dark out. So, okay. All right. So we have trigger is definitely a thing. Can we all agree that trigger is an actual thing? It's not about how we feel. Absolutely.
It's real life. Yes.
We also have one that says social media is a cause for mental anxiety. And I think having witnessed that with my son growing up, 100%. Now, how we respond to it and what we as older adults in the youth's lives, or even in our friends' lives, or even in our lives, sometimes we need to put the social media down. Sometimes we need to take a little 6-month hiatus. You know, I try to be in the moment and to not take so many pictures. For like the past 3 years, I've been on that kick. And it's really helped. The thing though is when I meet my friends, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this, this, and this. And they're like, oh, I never saw you post that. I'm like, dang, I didn't post that. Oh, because I didn't take any pictures of that. But that's the norm now is you don't want to hear about my trip. You want to see it while it's happening. And then when I don't do it, it's like, hey, we were looking for that. So we have that. We have there are misguided youth that feel they don't need to listen to older people. Suicides are up. Shootings are up. It's either social media or 5G. You guys got any thoughts to that comment?
You said social media or what?
Or 5G towers, you know.
It's hard. Like I said, social media, you sometimes have to play devil's advocate because like me personally, I'm only on there so much because for business purposes and for branding purposes. If I didn't have all this going on, 9 times out of 10, I would not be on there as much. So I think it was some celebrity. They used it the other day, I think Lizzo, as, you know, outlet to share how she felt about herself. I think she may have suffered from depression. So she uses social media as an outlet. I feel like social media allows people to judge. And so they think that they can say whatever they want to these strangers, to these people, because they have these fingers to use the type. But I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
What about you, Cassandra?
You know, so just like she just said, you know, social media is a love-hate relationship. You know, you have to be on there, especially if you have a product, a business, or some sort of service that you're trying to push. But at the same time, you see, you know, the luxury vacations and the bags and the this, and you're putting yourself like, well, you know, maybe I should be making more money. But what you have to realize is you have to find your self-worth first. You have to have self-love first. You have to know your boundaries and what you're doing. And you also have to realize that, like was stated earlier, social media, a lot of it is fake. You know, it's just for that picture for the gram, or, you know, that perfect picture for Facebook. But you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know the person's real mental state. You know, they have a persona to uphold, so they keep doing it. And we have to teach our youth, well, from a young age, that, you know, we have to give them the affirmations. We have to tell them that they're beautiful, that they're worth something, that, you know, they're kings and queens. So we have to start there early, so when they do get on social media, it's already in them. Well, you know, I already know I'm a queen, so I don't have to keep, you know, worrying about what they're doing. You know, that their personality will come out in their social media, you know, and hopefully it's a positive one.
We just had a quick comment. I'm gonna jump down to this one because I thought her comment is something we all need to hear. And this comment comes from Decacia, who's a young Black girl, teenager living in America right now. And she wanted us to keep in mind that mental health really starts in families. And often Black families or parents don't believe in mental health, which causes their child to isolate themselves and revert to social media as an outlet. And I think one that's 100% true, and I think it perfectly ties in to that feedback that we had in the comment about there being so many misguided youth, suicides being up. It's either social media or 5G. These things act all within the same wheelhouse. You can't remove one thing and think that everything falls in line then. However, you create the perfect storm when you have a community that is rejecting science, because we have to be honest with ourselves and our community and be brutally honest. We're very different. The people who deny mental health in our community are no different than the extreme right who denied, the existence of the coronavirus. It really isn't a difference. And we have a group that's denying science. We have a group that is at the same time embracing social media. Therefore, the descendants are now embracing social media, and they're using it whatever way they can to fill the void that whatever they may have, and or they may not have a void when it starts, but because they see things happen differently to other people, it could create a void. And I think that's worth speaking to always. There's another comment that says there's so many misguided youth that, that one, that the youth don't listen. And again, I think that we learned that even with the conversation where we had the older generation, generation of the 60s came and spoke with us. Maybe it's not that they don't want to listen. Maybe we're not trying to talk to them to where they can hear us. And one of the things that I do is I advocate for, I'm an advocate for disability rights. And one of the things that I tell people is you have to stop thinking that your way of communicating is the norm. That is not how this person communicates. They can still communicate. Just because somebody may have extreme autism doesn't mean that they're incapable of communicating. It's whether or not you want to get on the level to communicate with them. And sometimes I think that's what's missing in these types of conversations between the generations. We have the comment of Miss Diane said, I still feel more comfortable in the daytime walking by Blacks, but at night I don't trust anyone. I mean, I think as a woman, I could understand that. I personally feel uncomfortable whenever I see a large group of people, but I'm from the hood. So if I don't know about what's going on with a large group of people, usually ain't nothing good going on. So it's just a natural fear. We have a comment that says, Miss Diane again, missing generation. Oh, excuse me. Missing generation. So a lot of youth depend on elders, their grandparents, to raise them, and these grands are too damn tired to regulate their new social media. Now, when you gave a message, you gave a whole message right there, and I've seen it firsthand in my family. But what do you guys think, Danny?
Well, yesterday I just spoke to my grandfather. My grandfather is 98, so you just imagine everything he has seen, right? And yeah, I think it's a patience thing that they don't have, but you have to respect it, because you just think about the life they've lived and the things they've seen and their experiences and all of that. And again, on the other end, like on the younger generations and the children that they're raising, they have to be open. They have to be mentally ready and regulated enough to listen to what the elders have to say, because they do know some stuff. We're just two very different generations. Like I said, he's 98 years old. And so, but I can at the same time sit there and have a conversation. Like we were on the phone 15, 20 minutes yesterday, just talking. And, he asked me how everything was and giving me advice about this and that. And so we just have to be open. And at the end of the day, show that respect. That's where it starts. And then be open to learning. Because again, it's different, two very different lifestyles, two very different times. But like they say, everything comes back around. History repeats itself. And so we have to be open and ready to receive what they're giving.
Cassandra, what are your thoughts?
I think Danny summed it up perfectly. But, grandparents are tired, and it's kind of unfair that they are raising our children, because they raised us. They made sure that they got us at the house. And they did all of that in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when times were a lot different, And for them to have to backdoor and to raise another younger generation after trying to get our that generation, it's unfair. They are tired. A lot of them are not really social media savvy, and that book of faces, or all the little jokes that you hear, and there's a disconnect because they don't understand why they're on their phone so much, and why they're talking to their friends so much, or why they're tweeting or this or that, and they don't get it because that's nothing that's really concerning to them. They just use their phone basically to call people only in emergencies. I have an aunt that doesn't text, she doesn't send pictures. You literally call her and hang up. That's it. And I was like, well, you could have a flip phone for that, but that's a whole different story. But they don't understand the importance of social media for the youth. So that's where the disconnect comes from, and that's why they're not really monitoring what's on social media. They think it's like a TV. They don't understand the things that go on with it.
Unmute yourself, Cam.
Danny, you a real one. You a real one. But yeah, so we got this comment from Omar. It says, let's not forget platforms such as Facebook and etc. sell your information to companies such as Brexit and Cambridge Analytical, who use your information for control. Yeah, I don't think I think everybody should always take time to read the terms of services agreements before you sign up for an app. I know it's long, I know it's tedious, but you should really look at that because it's very telling. And you'll know what you're getting into sometimes. And you have to understand that by signing up for social media on any platform, you are giving up a certain level of privacy, and you are definitely inviting corporations into your life to know more about you, to target you. I definitely think that's true. Miss Diane said, my daughter's 25 years old and said that I have to respect her struggle. My struggle was different than hers, and I shouldn't expect her to just heat over her problems. You have to respect her struggle. I would love to know the context of that because that's a very bold statement to make. I think maybe what she means by respect is understand and empathize. A lot of times that's all we're looking for is understanding and empathy. You don't have to agree that it's like it would be a struggle for you. But if you could see how it could be a struggle for her in times, and that could really be it. And I think that kind of goes for all of us, though. Yeah, like don't we all just want to feel validated and heard? Cassandra, what do you think?
I think that's totally true. We have to understand our youth. We are going to have to literally talk to them more so that we do understand them more. It's not enough talking, not enough conversation. We have to get into their face, find out what they're talking about. I have totally lost track of the rappers. There's too many of them going on. But what I
Way
do,
too many littles out there.
too many little and babies. I can't.
My son said something about a baby. I said, wait, which baby is this?
It's a little baby, dub baby. I don't know, but I'm starting to sound like my mother now. But I try to keep in touch with him. I try to ask him on a daily basis, what's going on? How's your mental state? What do you have anything stressing you? And that's the main thing that we're going to have to do to try to bridge this together with social media, our youth, the older generation. We just going to have more conversations and discuss more and try to find out what's going on with everybody's mind, how their energy is flowing. Is it positive, negative stuff? And we just need to try to fix it.
Yeah, I swear I'm gonna get it together. Yeah, I promise I'm gonna get it together. But this, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode. This has been an awesome conversation. And I think that this is something we're gonna have to bring you guys back for, so we can continue this. This may just need to be a part one and a series of conversations, because we have a lot of engagement, a lot of people who really are loving this talk. But we're gonna go ahead and sign off here tonight. I want to say again, thank you to our guests. Thank you guys so much. I say this to all our guests, but we do have to have you guys back. Like, the amount of connections and people this show has been able to reach and bring in has really just like introduced me to some dope people with amazing insight and conversation. And I truly thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Of course.
And Danny, you're awesome.
Oh, you too. Yes.
Yes, we love the support. We love it. We're going to sign off for now, but I do want to give a big shout out to Decacia, who has been a faithful viewer and subscriber. Every week she's in here. I see you, Keisha. And you, ma'am, are a shining example for everybody in your generation. But if nothing else, you guys have a great night. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Bye, everybody.